Hi, everyone. I'm Leslyn Keith with the Lipedema Project and Lipedema Simplified, back again today for what's new and coming up with lipedema. And I'm here with my friend and colleague, Catherine Seo. Hi, Catherine.
Hi there.
It's so neat that we can get together with each other and women from around the world. And, you know, we're in totally, completely different places, different time zones, but we can all be here together at the same time. It's a nice thing.
Well, we were figuring out time zones yesterday.
Yes.
We were meeting. We were trying, so we have a couple of post-symposium classes coming up. And both of them are very, very exciting. They're, in the same ilk. The only thing is one heads in one direction, which is more around, keto, get the pragmatic stuff, your compression, everything.
The physical stuff. Yeah.
The physical stuff. And the other is really about befriending your body, learning to love yourself, being in the domain of self-care and self-love and self-compassion. All of that's important. When you do it, it's really your choice. But the point of this was to say that we were trying to come up with a time zone.
Yeah.
Like, what time can we do that works for the most people?
Yeah. And we were trying to go with Perth, Australia, US, Europe, South Africa. And you know what? Nothing works for all of those places.
Right. The closest we've been able to come, which is why we do things at 4:00 in the afternoon Eastern time, is because that's 1:00 on the West Coast. That's 9:00 p.m. in the UK, 10:00 p.m. in Europe and South Africa. And then it's the next morning in Australia. But
quite early.
But very early. I mean, it's actually okay in Melbourne, but it's 4 a.m. in Perth.
Yes.
So it's like this thing is just amazing how we try and figure it out.
Yes.
But, Leslyn, I mean, we've been talking a lot about the symposium and different courses that we're doing. I wonder, we've been talking more about putting something together around compression. And that's your, what is it that's important for us to know about compression when we're looking at it? We're just talking about someone who had been diagnosed and she wasn't wearing compression and then she was wearing compression. I'm wondering, what is the difference for those of us with lipedema and lymphedema?
Yeah. It does make a big difference for both lipedema and lymphedema, but the type of compression you're going to use is going to be different for each condition. And if you have a combination of the conditions, that will dictate the kind of compression you use. But for straight lipedema with mild water retention and water retention fluctuations that happen during the day, you're going to use usually a milder compression, something that is going to be very elastic, very stretchy, and typically easier to get on. A lot of times we lean towards a textured fabric. And this is going to really help to support your tissues, especially if you have some fat lobules and stuff that they're weighted down. And so getting some support for that, lifting that, holding it more closer to your body so it doesn't quite feel so heavy and doesn't stretch your tissue so much. But a lighter compression a lot of times can work for that. And we're talking about a 15 to 20 millimeters of mercury compression. And so there's a lot of off-the-shelf stockings, waist high, capri length, knee high, thigh high, that can accommodate that are off the shelf. A lot of companies actually cater towards the lipedema shape, so you don't have to get custom. But now if you have some chronic edema that is actually turned into lymphedema, maybe you have a lobule that's hanging down and is actually the bottom part is full of fluid. And so The top of your foot is swollen, and it's still swollen when you wake up in the morning, even after elevating it all night. Now you've got lymphedema on top of your lipedema, and you're going to need a stronger fabric, not necessarily super high compression, but it's going to have to be stiffer. And a lot of times we're going to a flat knit garment. This is a kind of a fabric that is just not so elastic. It's very stiff. And so it has really good containment. And so again, for that person who has maybe a combination of lipedema and lymphedema, this is going to contain the swelling much better. But for both of these people who are choosing to wear some compression, it's going to a lot of times reduce your pain. So it is very, very useful for that, for managing pain, managing fibrosis, and supporting the tissues, controlling swelling. So there's a lot of reasons why we use compression. And, you know, we've been talking now for a while about that we really need to have a workshop just about compression. What are the reputable companies that make compression garments? And, you know, it's not just something you get typically off of Amazon. You want to get usually a company that has experience with lipedema and lymphedema to ensure you're getting, it's going to be a more expensive product, but it's going to be more comfortable. It's going to be easier to get on. It's going to be sized for the shape of lipedema and hopefully not have to be custom. So there's a lot of reasons why it's kind of good to invest in something that might be higher quality and more expensive, because it'll last you longer. So we have to do a full workshop on this, and we're talking about doing that to really help people to figure out what garments are going to be best for them.
Yeah, definitely. Cheryl just posted, and I think we should. First of all, she says she just got a diagnosis, so she has stage 2 lymphedema and lipedema.
Yes.
Number one, sometimes it's so difficult to get a diagnosis, so
Yes.
that's good that you have it. And
Yes.
once you have a diagnosis, it really helps you in moving forward, and knowing what you can do and how you can manage it. Unfortunately, as most of us know, the healthcare providers, so many don't know about lipedema, and so there's not a lot of choices in the healthcare system. But the good news is that, you know, we have all been exploring this. We know lots of tips and tools that work. A lot of that's free. We have free webinars. You know, we have a membership group that's really easy and very low cost. You know, so make sure you take care of yourself. Cheryl also said she has an appointment with Dr. Herbst coming up, and that she's very nervous about it. Don't be. What the hardest part is getting the diagnosis. She also says that she's freaked out because of the time that's passed. But here, this is the one I wanted to show. Can stage 2 ever go back to stage 1? What you're really asking is, can you reverse the progression? And I think that's a really good question, because we have seen a reverse in progression. It is very dependent on each woman's, what their, you know, where they are, what their comorbidities are, what you're doing in order to do that. Leslie, do you want to address that a little bit too? Because
yeah, I think that we definitely can stabilize and stop you from progressing further. It is possible. There is hope for doing that. For reversal, like Catherine says, it's very hard to say, because we don't know. I mean, there might be some irreversible tissue changes that happen. It doesn't mean that you can't get smaller, but it might mean that you still always need the support of compression garments, like we were just talking about, even after you do get smaller, because there's been some irreversible changes in your tissues from long-standing problems, and sometimes not even necessarily long-standing, because we all, the tissue can remodel at different rates. And people can get, you know, tissue changes very rapidly, and others may go, you know, a decade with really very little tissue changes. So it is very individual, but there is hope to actually improve your situation. You may still be a stage 2, but you might be a smaller stage 2. You might have a higher quality of life with your stage 2. So it doesn't mean that you are stagnant with everything just being where it is. There can be improvements even if the actual stage doesn't change.
Yeah, she says she also has the comorbidity of EDS. So, good that you're seeing Dr. Herbst. She can be very helpful. And so, kudos to you. That will probably give you some concrete next steps.
Yes. And I wanted to talk a little bit about some research projects that we have coming up, because again, the more we find out about lipedema, the more we learn about lipedema, the better we can treat it, manage it, and improve women's lives. And so we have 2 projects that we're working on. One is just listening to the voices of women who have lipedema. And so we're going to be doing some qualitative research to really listen to what women are saying about what was it like when their lipedema first happened and they didn't know what the diagnosis was. What were the changes that happened in their body, and how did it affect their lives? So we're interested in those kinds of things. What is the experience of living with lipedema? So that is one thing we're pursuing, and the other is a little bit more quantitative. We're looking at, really interested in the blood work of women with lipedema, and so we're working right now with Siobhan Huggins and Dave Feldman with Own Your Labs, that they have a blood testing service that we would like to have women either go through them to have the specific blood test done, or they have a way that you can have your blood test done by your provider, maybe reimbursed by your insurance, but then you submit your results through a certain portal into Own Your Labs, so we can collate all this information. We could be looking at, and I'm just going to throw things out there because I'm not entirely sure what we're going to be looking at, but what are the vitamin D levels of women with lipedema? What are the thyroid levels with women with lipedema? And then we'll be asking you, along with your blood work, all kinds of information about your lipedema. So you'll be telling us, you'll be making this picture of, here's my blood work, and here is this picture of who I am and what's going on with me. I think that's also going to be very exciting information to be gathering.
One more little thing. Joan from Brisbane says that she's just done the basic and lower limb close training and enjoyed your lectures. Leslyn?
Yes, that's exciting. We have Gunter Close has some instructors that he works with in Australia and New Zealand that are offering his training down there, and offering also, because of the pandemic and the lockdowns, he's been offering things completely online. And so I was happy to be able to record some presentations, some lectures that are included in that training. Of course, I get to do my favorite, get to talk about lipedema. So I'm so happy, Joan, that you experienced that and you learned from that. I think that we're just helping to get the word out. The more people that know about this condition, the more that we're talking about it, the more we can get help for people who need it.
Okay. Joan mentioned about the symposium. We have to at least let you know how you can get information. So I'm going to put that banner. There's a link that's ticker taping at the bottom of our screen. So that's the link where you can get info. Or it's in the caption, which is, I believe, above where this is. You know what? It's above on Facebook. It's below on YouTube, because this is broadcasting to both Facebook and YouTube simultaneously. So we have the symposium coming up. We've talked about it a lot. Go get some information. It's 2 weeks from today. which is remarkable because, we've been working on it for like a year.
I know, and I just can't believe it's coming up so quickly now.
Yeah, really. And we have to say that the speakers are phenomenal. It's very exciting.
And we have some wonderful sponsors that are
Mhm.
supporting us and really allowing us to put this conference on. So thank you to our sponsors, including one of them is Close Training. So it's wonderful.
Yeah, that sounds great. So, all right, everyone, we're gonna say we hope to see you soon. Let's see. I'm trying to think. I know we have a webinar coming up because we're going to do a webinar about the symposium and what we're covering in the symposium, to do a Q&A for anyone who's still thinking, do I want to do this? Do I not? Anyway, we're going to be doing that, I think, on Wednesday. I vaguely remembered that in the calendar.
Yes.
So we have a few things that are in the works.
Yes.
So be sure to check and have a wonderful weekend.
Yeah, great to see everybody. Thanks for being here today, and see you next time. Bye-bye.